I mean, every Christmas, we celebrate the Virgin Mary. Historically, she was anywhere between 12 and 15. That's sick. And we worship women who haven't yet psychologically crossed into womanhood. If you're still a virgin, men don't consider you an adult woman. Which is why virginity is always symbolized by a pubescent girl. Men don't see us as equal. They see us human enough to have their kids, but they don't view us as fully functioning, intelligent, equal partners. Men don't want equal partners, especially if you're in a religious, patriarchal society. Men are not taught to want equal, intelligent partners. Some men wouldn't know what to do with one. Because if someone's equal, they're a threat. That's why women didn't get the vote for decades. Because men didn't want to have to compete with anyone but other men. And women allow themselves to be subjugated. They allow themselves to be less than. Because most of the women in my ethnic background voted for Trump. They voted against what is good for them. Because they're so indoctrinated to believe that they're unfit to be in charge because they're not a man. They will elect a female hater, a rapist of women before they would even dare to elect a woman who has experience, a vice president. At least we've had a female vice president. We should have had several female presidents by now. I mean, we're the only world power that hasn't. That is how misogynistic our country is. We have so many experienced and dynamic politicians that aren't white and male. We just don't elect them into the presidency. And until everyone's equal, nobody is safe. That's why religious people only believe in 2 genders. Because if there's more genders, then men aren't that special. If there's 50 genders, it's much harder for white cis heterosexual men to have a monopoly. If there's only 2 genders and the gender with the majority of people on this planet are weaker, it's easier to rule over them. As long as we support and maintain membership and vote for these churches that hate women with a passion, we will never be anything but men's property. The idea women grow up with that they have to marry and be a man's property, at least socially. You may not legally be a man's property, but socially you're his property. This is why when a woman refuses a man at a bar, he doesn't get it. You have to evoke another man's name for a man to get out of your space. Decent men don't need to be told you have a boyfriend. Decent men, once they hear, no thank you, they move on. Men do not understand anything unless it's the property of another man. That's how women get obnoxious men to leave them alone. They have to show that they're owned by another man. Women will never be safe out of their house or even in their house until we view women as having the intellectual equality, the physical strength of making their own choices without man's help. And we have such a low opinion of ourselves as women. We don't do ourselves any favors. We internalize the purity culture, the rape culture, the extensive dislike for women into ourselves. We call it internalized misogyny. Women mutilate themselves through plastic surgery because they don't see themselves as fully functional. And as long as men see women as conquests and property, they will never vote for the good of women. Personally, I would never date or want to be friends with someone who voted for Trump because that's how much they hate me. They voted someone who can't be called safe around my own girlfriends. And Christianity has done very little in the most popular, the most influential denominations. They still hate women. They view women as honor keepers of the family. I mean, I have never seen such contempt for women like I've seen from organized religion. Our whole rule book of Christianity shows the Jewish and Christian hate toward women, whether it's in the ancient times or in the modern times. And it's not enough to own women. The men want to own her sexuality and erase it. Marriage benefits men, divorce benefits women. And if you're lucky enough to have found a decent guy to be with, that's fine. But don't make it your identity. And your life doesn't start when you meet a guy. According to 3 of my coworkers, their life ended the second they met a man. We call it domestic violence and murder-suicide now. And luckily, those are very few and far between incidences. But as long as we view ourselves as having to need male validation and conquering a woman, I mean, the level of contempt I've seen is just disgusting. I've had men think they've owned me and I'm just driving them somewhere. Like, why don't you smile more? I've had people that won't take no for an answer. I don't owe a man anything. They think they do. And this is where male entitlement comes from. If they think a woman's attractive, they think they own her. If they pay money, men only pay money so they can gain access to own you. And you don't even have to be in a relationship. I've known people that had a friends with benefits thing, and the guy thinks they own her and can tell her what to do or get jealous when she goes out with other people. If the person's not exclusively yours due to relationship rules, even then, nobody is anyone's property. I don't care if you paid for somebody in a foreign country or if you're married to someone. You don't own each other. And just because you make the money, just because you pay the bills, doesn't mean you get to make the decisions. Adults make communal decisions. And if marriage requires a man to lead and a woman to submit, maybe we need to look at the religions that are teaching this toxic dynamic. Maybe it's not as good as we think it is.